Yeah, it's a lot of startups, a lot of exits, and something I've noticed with a lot of startups and founders is usually they were working somewhere else. They discovered a problem and they built a company to address that problem. What problem would you say that CR3 Markets is solving?
Well, big picture, we're trying to create liquidity in a specific area of the alternative space, commercial real estate, a huge area, 25 trillion plus. And, it bounces all over the place, but on average, there's about 150 billion of equity created every year in the commercial real estate space. So, a huge market from a lot of respects. They've been doing things old school for a long time. The typical capital raising in the commercial real estate space is through private avenues, joint ventures, which ultimately boil down to GP-LP relations. So the GP-LP structure has been traditionally the way to go with commercial real estate, and other platforms out there being built right now. Some of them, Fundrise, for example, being successful. We think Reg A Plus is an underutilized mechanism that I think the market will latch on to very quickly. They already have. So there's been 10 billion of Reg A Plus issuance since Reg A Plus was usable in 2015. That doesn't sound like a big number, but about half of that number has been commercial real estate related. And so commercial real estate folks have discovered Reg A Plus.
That's fascinating. In my time working with financial advisors, RIAs, I keep coming back to and seeing articles about the theme of the 60-40 portfolio dead. And, what is meant by that is advisors they're looking to commercial real estate. They're looking to private credit. They're looking at, buffered strategies. Yeah, I look at what CR3 Markets is doing. You really play well in that alternative space. You're giving liquidity to an asset class that traditionally has not had a lot of liquidity, and also giving access to non-accredited investor financial advisors. What are you doing at CR3 Markets to reimagine investing?
Yeah, absolutely. Look, there's three things we're doing, but first I want to say that movement away from the traditional 60-40 model has been taking place for a number of years with, some success. And I think a lot of the platforms being created right now are going to help that. What we do uniquely are a pure focus on just one part of the alternative space, commercial real estate. Like I said before, we're using a construct, Reg A Plus. That's a natural construct. You don't have to do anything special. And that's our main focus on how you get to market is through Reg A Plus.
A lot of companies, you mentioned secondary markets, liquidity for alternative investments that traditionally don't have a lot of liquidity. And there's a few companies that come to mind that, to me are, in the news a lot and seem to be doing something similar. T0, Start Engine, Yield Street, companies like Fundrise. What differentiates CR3 Markets from those other startups?
Yeah, exactly. Great question. And I think I think multiple solutions, there's plenty of room for multiple solutions. But what we're doing that's unique is we're doing single property issuance. And so we're focused on issuing Reg A Plus shares off of single property. And that's unique because the only other way to solve for retail investors and smaller accredited investors has been to create a portfolio and then fractionalize the portfolio. So perfect example that's been around a long time are REITs, and publicly traded REIT. And publicly traded REITs are fine. They're a great solution for certain situations. I think there are some things about publicly traded REITs that investors would rather not exist, and one of them is publicly traded REITs are a little bit at the mercy of the public markets, and so they'll move with big stock market moves, even though the fundamentals underlying them might not really be applicable to whatever's going on in the stock market, and so you have a higher volatility than you would with a private real estate portfolio. What we're creating is single property issuance with Reg A Plus, so you have many of the benefits of the public markets because your ownership is in the form of publicly tradable shares. And yet we believe that since the valuation is so easy to zero in on, since it's a single property, you're not going to get the volatility you get with publicly traded REITs.